Hey everybody, welcome to episode 41 of the Metal Detecting Show podcast. My name is Kieran and I have been metal detecting for nearly 30 years, and as today is New Year's Day, we look at some of the highlights from the first 40 episodes of the podcast. So let's get on with the show. Hey everyone, before we start, I want to thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show this week, but before we begin, I want to give you the following information. If you want to give me feedback or interact with the show, please reach out to me on Twitter at DetectingThe or Instagram at the Metal Detecting Podcast. Or if you want to pop me an email to Kieran at themetaldetectingshow.com. And now, if you'd like to leave me a voicemail, please do so on speakpipe.com/The Metal Detecting Show. The link will be in the show notes. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can actually do so now with buymeacoffee.com/metal detecting. And lastly, and most importantly, if you like this content, please don't hesitate to tell your friends and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hey detectorists, welcome to episode 41 and a happy new year to everyone. Year 2021, who would have thought it? What has 2020 been like for you? That may be a stupid question as COVID rears its ugly head again, but the new year is always a time for reflection on the year previous, so hopefully you have all had some highs mixed in with the nightmare that COVID turned out to be. For me, my day-to-day work went from travelling the world on a monthly basis to being confined to my home office for the last 9 months, and that has been a tough transition, let me tell you. However, every cloud has a silver lining, and without COVID and the time I gained by working from home, I probably would still be thinking that I might start a podcast on metal detecting, and in fact, doing the podcast has helped me get through it. I think the first 9 months of the podcast have been a success, with the show hitting the top 100 podcasts in the history category on iTunes regularly, and with the release of episode 40 last week on Christmas Day, I was glad to see the podcast hit the top 5% of podcasts with my host Buzzsprout. So we are growing week on week, which is great, and hopefully at some stage in 2021 we can get a sponsor on board. Plus the show now has a little traction to get products for review and interviews. So I hope to leverage all this in 2021 to make the podcast even better. I have had some feedback to include in interviews a more technical discussion around the equipment the interviewees use, so I will definitely add this to my repertoire of questions. Over the last 9 months, I talked to some great people on the show, and I feel, with this being the last show of the year, that it would be good to hear some of the highlights. So, to start, we go with my very first interview on the podcast with Norway Digger, and we pick up the episode where I just asked him how he got started.
I was always interested in treasure hunting ever since I was a little child, and my granny used to bring me in the car and go for a drive to visit her parents. And there was a mountain range that we were driving by every time, and she used to tell me the same story every time we drove by about 3 robbers who obviously stole something and hid the treasure up in the caves that was never found. So that's kind of what piqued my interest at the start. Obviously, later on in life, I never did anything about it until all these TV shows and Oak Island and treasure hunting channels and all that come along on YouTube. And I got into it and I said, I might as well just give it a go myself.
As a first interview, I couldn't have asked for a better interviewee than Bjornar, who was very open with his opinions and information. Up next is an interview that resulted in my longest episode to date, and that was with the chatterbox that is Joel Green, or better known as Diggin Deep Beeps. We pick it up here where we discuss Joel's weekly show and tell, the What You Dig stream, and what his vision for it was. The What You Dig live stream, I call it the internet's largest show and tell. The last stream, there was 220 people online showing off their finds. I found it really inspiring, and I think it makes the metal detecting community stronger. Where did you come up with that concept? I really think it's a unique concept because a lot of videos online are, particularly metal detecting videos, are beep, beep, dig, we're waving around a metal detector and we're showing the same stuff essentially over and over again, unless it's something that's really awesome. You get 2 questions. Is it clickbait or is it actually awesome? You know what I mean?
No.
that's the situation you're in. But I really think what you've done with the What You Dig live stream, I think it really is elevating the community, and I think it's a really great thing to do. So where did you come up with the concept?
Well, I started with Metal Detecting Nation. It's a live stream on YouTube. We do Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. I'll just throw a plug out there. We haven't done it in a few weeks because of vacations and stuff like that. But a couple of my really good buddies, Jordy and Dave, they started it and they brought me aboard. We have some amazing people. I don't know. Nancy, Ambient Girl Relic Hunter. She's on there. She's huge in the community. She's such a positive influence for everybody. We have the Jersey History Hunter on there, Rachel and Audra. Amazing people. They do a lot for the community. So after joining them, I was kind of like, I could do my own. So, and the what do you dig live stream represents is it's not always metal detecting based. Yeah, I show people's finds and I stuff, but it's more of an outreach. That's what
Yeah.
I'm trying to, I talk about my life. I talk about my life issues. I talk about, stress in my life, and I really try to, like, if I can help somebody in one way that they're upset about something, that's what it is. And the What Do You Do live stream is not just metal detecting based. It's what do you dig? Sorry, what do you dig?
Yeah.
And so digging not means digging anything out of the ground, but it means what hobbies do you like? I want to have different people on that do stuff other than metal detecting, which right now I haven't really had a lot of co-hosts. I mean, it's hard finding people that want to do a Monday night at 7 p.m. But when I started live streaming, I wanted to be a positive influence in people's lives. I don't like, I have people that message me all the time. I respond to them and they're like, "Oh, Joel, you're a huge influence in my life. And you're such a big star." I'm not a star. And I don't, and I, when people say that, they look up to me, I appreciate that, but I'm just Joel. I am.
Yeah.
I'm a real person that is just doing a live stream, and I sincerely consider everybody that joins the DDB family as family. I have a lot of personal conversations with people, and so that's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to, I end all my live streams with "make somebody smile," because that's kind of one of the mottos I go by. Make somebody smile today, tomorrow, send somebody a text, and so that's pretty much what do you dig represents, is bringing the community together as a family, and we can all hang out together for an hour or something like that. I've went 3 hours on live streams. I've done private live streams for friends for their birthdays. I would have a dance party where I would have to put it on private or unlisted, or actually private on YouTube, because I was playing copyrighted music. That's what I want to represent to the community, as somebody that's fun, loving, that if you have an issue in your life, I mean, I've given my phone number out on stream.
Yeah.
If you need to call me, call me. I mean, and I mean, I got some crap over that. Joel, why are you doing that? It's because I want to help people out. If somebody's down, I struggle with my own demons. I mean, and a lot of other people do too. And there's a lot of people that are in my metal detecting family that do also. And if I can just, be that positive person in their life, even if it's just for a minute, that makes me happy.
Joel has actually left the content creation scene since, but I think we can all agree that what Joel was doing was elevating the community of metal detecting online, and I'm looking forward to when we have Joel back, if he decides to do so. Up next was a dinger of an interview with Sean and Mike from the Metal Detecting channel on YouTube. We join just as Sean is describing finding a Henry VI gold hammy. And this one's to you, Sean. You recently pulled out the Henry VI gold hammered coin. That's a find on anybody's bucket list. Can you describe the feeling when you first realised what it was?
It's quite emotional, actually. It definitely
I
is
bet.
that. Well, when I was digging away, and I was digging away, and I saw a hammered coin, but it were caked in a bit of whatever it's been buried in for how long, and when I realised it were a gold coin, it were just everything come out all at once. I mean, I've listened back to watch the video, and it's did I really make that noise?
Yeah. Oh, it's brilliant.
You know,
It's brilliant to
and
watch, and it's so genuine. Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. It is.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it's hard to make up. It's hard to make up that reaction, but sometimes I do think to myself,
Yeah.
we do find that many sort of silver coins and things on every dig that maybe there's somebody watching thinking that's got to be fake. That's got to be fake. And honest to God, it's not fake. It is exactly how it is. We dig about 1,000 holes in a day, so we are doing some digging. Sometimes we're out there for 12 hours at digging, and we might find one silver hammered or something, but that makes the video for us.
Mike and Sean are some of the hardest working detectorists on the scene, and I nearly fell off my seat when they said they could dig hundreds of signals in a day. We followed this interview with Leon von Zhyl from Zarp's Metal Detecting South Africa on YouTube, just as I put him on the spot for a quick history lesson on the Boer War. Quick history test. You've mentioned the Boer War a few times. Give the listeners a quick history test. What is the Boer War, and give us a history lesson on it.
Yeah, so the Boer War basically were farmers down in the Cape, and the British came over, and this is the dumbed down version. The Boers didn't like that, so they said, well, to hell with you guys, we are moving, or in Dutch, trekking, and that's how the voortrekkers basically became. So these guys trekked up or moved up around through KZN. And some of them stayed there, and some of them moved up to what was then known as the Transvaal and the Orange Free State. And the Transvaal and the Orange Free State then basically became two independent states. And so they were stuck around there for about 40, 50 years until the British found out that they had found gold on a reef in those two states. And they decided, well, we want a piece of that. So, the long story short is, in 1880 was the start of the First Boer War, which wasn't successful for the British, and they remained independent states. And then again in 1899 was the start of the Second Boer War, which lasted 3 years. And some of the guys in the UK would know, or maybe not know, but was referred to as the most humiliating war that the British had ever fought, where they said that it would last 6 months. It ended to be 3 years. And what's interesting about that is, these were plain Jane farmers. These guys weren't soldiers or anything. And what made the Boer War, the Second Boer War, so tedious and so long is they had a tactic where they reverted to guerrilla warfare. And that war ended basically in 1902. The Boers lost, that's basically the long and the short. Yeah.
Leon was a wealth of knowledge and a real advocate for the hobby in South Africa. Up next is one of my favourite interviews, and that was with Digitwithwill. Will, who I think had a cold at the time, soldiered on regardless and regaled us with the depth of history he has within walking distance of his house.
About personal possessions, I try and keep them as close to my house as possible because I take my wee one with me.
Yeah.
And generally I just walk there. Like I've got one that's literally just over the wall from my house and just along a wee bit. And then I've got ones that are probably about half a mile walk. And they're probably the most productive that I've ever had, which is in it's weird because in 10 square meter area I found like over 200 musket balls. Wow. So originally I thought it might have been like a training area because it's got like a cliff face against it.
Yeah.
But it turns out because a lot of the local people are getting used to me being in them fields. So there was one person came up to me and said that he's been looking into it for me, and the reason why I'm finding all the musket balls is because they used to hold the Zhyl gun competition at that field in that area. And the Zhyl gun started with James I and James VI. Well, James I, James VI gifted this trophy to the tradesmen of Dumfries, and it was basically to promote their training in marksmanship, because it was the tradesmen that defended the town, so it was in the best interest of the king to have basically the best marksman. So, but yeah, it's pretty much. I don't know where it's held now, but I'm pretty sure it's still held today. But in that field, it was held there between 1720 and I think it was 1797 that it stopped being held in that field.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing piece of history.
Yeah, that whole general area is like full of history. Like, there's a field that's not one of my permissions. There's been a lot of Bronze Age stuff being pulled up from it in the 60s. But on that cliff face, there is a area that is being linked back to the Druids.
Wow.
For like rituals and things like that. And apparently they used to throw basically young girls off this cliff face, basically, as part of the rituals.
Jesus. It's pretty creepy. Will would call himself a novice as he is only detecting a few years, but has orchestrated a community of nearly 300 detectorists in Scotland within his first year of detecting, which is something to be proud of. My final interview this year was with Dirtfishmish from down under Australia. Mish, who is very knowledgeable with her equipment, teaches me a thing or two with the hunting combo of the Equinox 800 coupled with the Nocta Macro Pulse Dive. I see you're using the Equinox and the Pulse Dive pinpointer.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm asking this question, because I have the exact same too, the Equinox and the Pulse Find. So why did you pick that combo?
All right. So Equinox was basically because it was the dream machine, and everyone was recommending to go to that for a coin and relic machine within the budget I had. The Pulse Dive was pretty much because I spend my time at the beach. I wanted one that performed well in saltwater conditions, but also the advantage of the Pulse Dive is that scuba coil head. So while I haven't used that too much, admittedly, at this point, we're coming into summer here, and I'm looking to take that in the water, do a bit of snorkel diving. I did trial it a little bit pre-COVID, but unfortunately, everything shut down. It went into winter and it just didn't work. But really keen to get out there and do some snorkeling with it, see what I can find with it.
Yeah, I've taken a snorkeling. All right, it was great. Very successful, I have to say. The few times I've used it. But the reason I asked this question was more to lead into this question. And it's a problem. It's a problem I'm having with them. And it might be a case of read the FM, read the flipping manual. But do you find that the Pulse Dive interferes with the Equinox?
Okay, so yes and no. So when I got it, yes, it did straight away. There's the two ways you can combat it. So depending on which device you want to tackle first. So the obvious one is the noise cancel. So have the Pulse Dive on and then do your noise cancel on your Nox while it's on. Generally speaking, that will stop it there. But the Pulse Dive itself, you can actually cycle through, I think it's like 20 or 40 different I don't know if it's frequencies or not, but 20 or so different settings. So that you can actually cancel it on that end as well. So I actually ended up doing a combination of both because my husband has a Pulse Dive as well. So we didn't want to run them at the same frequency. So I shifted mine a couple of notches and then we just noise cancel with them on if it's causing any grief. But you can get around it pretty quickly.
Yeah, so maybe I should have read the manual. I find that if I leave when I dig my hole and I leave the coil from my Equinox down on the ground, when I get down to put the Pulse Dive in, I find that it goes off at the corner, say the direction to the coil is. So I end up having to move the coil another 5-6 feet away. And I'm like, I'm struggling with it. To be honest, I lost my Garrett, and I'm struggling with this one at the minute. But I definitely need to read the manual.
Yeah, no, you definitely need to move the detector away when you crouch. You'll actually see me do that. It's probably like every third or fourth video I'll crouch down the pulse dives going absolutely nuts before I've even gotten it near the hole. So yeah, you'll see me kind of kick the detector off to the side.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're both not just me. They're both sensitive little units. So yeah.
That was a great interview too, as were all my guests, and I want to thank each and every one of them again. So, thank you to Norway Digger, Diggin Deep Beeps, the Metal Detecting Channel, Leon Fonsale, Digitwithwill, and Dirtfishmish. And finally, thank you, without whom I would not have a voice. I really appreciate your dedication listening to the last 40 episodes. Here's to a great 2021 with loads of properly dug holes and gold-filled pockets. Happy New Year. That's it for this week. I hope you liked this episode of the Metal Detecting Show podcast. Check out our website www.themetaldetectingshow.com for this episode's show notes. Check out our Patreon page if you want to help the podcast stay alive or just want to buy me a coffee. Actually, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do so now at buymeacoffee.com/metaldetecting. Also, if you would like to leave me a voicemail, please do so on speakpipe.com/The Metal Detecting Show. The link will be in the show notes. If you feel like taking your appreciation to the next level, feel free to leave me a positive review on any podcast directory of your choice. If you like this content and would like more, please don't hesitate to tell your friends, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Once again, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we will chat to you all again next week. Get out there, eyes down, and happy hunting.